A vassal or feudatory is a person who has entered into a mutual obligation to a lord or monarch in the context of the feudal system in medieval Europe. The obligations often included military support and mutual protection, in exchange for certain privileges, usually including the grant of land held as a fiefdom. The term can be applied to similar arrangements in other feudal societies. In contrast, a fidelity, or fidelitas, was a sworn loyalty, subject to the king. Western vassalage. In fully developed vassalage, the lord and the vassal would take part in a commendation ceremony composed of two parts, the homage and the fealty, including the use of Christian sacraments to show its sacred importance. According to Eginhard's brief description, the commendation made to Pippin the Younger in 757 by Tassio, Duke of Bavaria, involved the relics of Saints Denis, Rusticus, Eleuthera, Martin, and Germain, apparently assembled at Compiègne for the event. Such refinements were not included from the outset when it was time of crisis, war, hunger, etc. Under feudalism, those who were weakest needed the protection of the knights who owned the weapons and knew how to fight. Feudal society was increasingly based on the concept of lordship, which was one of the distinguishing features of the early Middle Ages and had evolved from times of late antiquity. In the time of Charlemagne, the connection slowly developed between vassalage and the grant of land, the main form of wealth at that time. Contemporaneous social developments included agricultural, manorialism, and the social and legal structures labeled, but only since the 18th century, feudalism. These developments proceeded at different rates in various regions. In Merovingian times, monarchs would reward only the greatest and most trusted vassals with lands. Even at the most extreme devolution of any remnants of central power, in 10th century France, the majority of vassals still had no fixed estates. The stratification of a fighting band of vassals into distinct groups might roughly correlate with the new term fief that had started to supersede benefice in the 9th century. An upper group comprised great territorial magnates, who were strong enough to ensure the inheritance of their benefice to the heirs of their family. A lower group consisted of landless knights attached to a count or duke. This social settling process also received impetus in fundamental changes in the conduct of warfare. As coordinated cavalry superseded disorganized infantry, armies became more expensive to maintain. A vassal needed economic resources to equip the cavalry he was bound to contribute to his lord to fight his frequent wars. Such resources, in the absence of a money economy, came only from land and its associated assets, which included peasants as well as wood and water. Difference between vassal and vassal state. Many empires have set up vassal states out of cities, kingdoms, and tribes that they wish to bring under their auspices without having to conquer or govern them. In these cases, vassalage just means forfeiting foreign policy independence in exchange for full internal autonomy and perhaps a formal tribute. A lesser state that might be called if junior ally would be called if vassal, as a reference to a domestic fiefholder or trustee, simply to apply a common domestic norm to diplomatic culture. This allows different cultures to understand formal hegemonic relationships in personal terms, even among states using non-personal forms of rule. Imperial states that have used this terminology include ancient Rome, the Mongol Empire, and the British Empire. Japanese equivalent. In feudal Japan, the relations between the powerful daimyo and shugo and the subordinate samurai bear some obvious resemblances to the Western vassalage, though there are also some significant differences. Compare Manrant, Scottish clan treaties of offensive and defensive alliance. Gokunin, vassals of the shogunate in Japan. Villein, a serf, or low-born worker under feudalism. Noken was the Mongol term for a tribal leader acknowledging another as his liege.